Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Welcome to the Grow Tent, everybody. You have found the best cannabis growing channel on YouTube, man. The place where we simplify the approach for you so everyone can learn how to grow. We make it so simple, even I can understand. So I'm going to listen and learn right now.
Woo! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Grow Tent. We got a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking about something that I don't see a lot of people ever making videos about or anything. Today we're going to be talking about the rhizosphere, flushing, pH balance of your soil, and how it has dramatic effects on your end yield, your overall quality of your bud, and everything else in between. So what we're going to be talking about today is something that most people don't talk about, but is actually extremely important. And we're going to be talking about why the pH that you put into your nutrient solution isn't as big of a deal as you think, and why that is, and the differences between what the pH you're putting in. This is for a media-based grow. It's not the same if you're growing in hydro or DWC, because then it really matters. So we're going to be talking about that today, and we're really going to be going into the rhizosphere and what it is and how it affects the way your plant gets nutrients and the schedule at which they give them, and why that since you have a rhizosphere that it doesn't really matter to an extent what you're doing with your pH. First, guys, remember to like, comment, subscribe, watch the full video. That stuff always helps out the channel a ton. I got a little Bella glitter right there on my shoulder. If you want to hang out with me more, or if you want some one-on-one consultations, anything like that, just like we're sitting here right now, you can head over to WTTGT. I'm sure you can figure out the last three letters of that come after that. Let's see what else we got. Guys, for the entire month of February, we are going to be going live or dropping a video every single day for the entire month. It's going to be a lot of work, and I'm going to hopefully be able to pull it off, but we're doing that to celebrate the, we have a collab coming up with with Dark Horse Genetics, and it's pretty awesome. I don't know. We'll get more to it in February. I don't really want to talk about it just quite yet. But just remember, we're going to be going live or dropping a video every single day for the entire month of February. The grow contest is going on, so we're going to be able to talk about all that during the... you guys are going to be going into veg for that. And we're going to be talking about the grow contest and everything for the whole month of February. So, all right, let's get today's episode started. No silly cuts, anything like that. So it's really going to be... two to three main aspects, however you want to look at it, of today's video. So the first one, I don't like just going into topics without explaining what they are. So the first one we're talking about is the rhizosphere. Like, oh, that's a weird word, GT. What are you talking about? Well, if you know, one of the things that you give your plants, or one of the things we put in the soil, is mycorrhiza. And the rhizosphere is made up of those microorganisms, that fungi that you're putting into the soil that lives on the roots, and they form a symbiotic relationship with the roots. And that is the rhizosphere, is the area directly around the roots, and they work together to set up the pH that they want, to get the nutrients that they need back and forth. And they work together as a team to help get the plant exactly what it's looking for. So the mycorrhiza that you're putting in there, that is, one of the things, the main thing that make up the rhizosphere that lives around the, it's kind of like the living city around the root hairs and around the root shafts that run through your soil. So that's what the rhizosphere is, and it's made up of mycorrhiza that we add in. Those are products like Great White. There's 500 of them. Orca, whatever brand you want to throw in here, Recharge, etc., etc. It's all the same thing. So that's what you're adding whenever you're doing that. Is you're adding. Think of that as adding, support troops to reestablish the front lines, or to reinforce the front lines. That's what you're doing when you are adding the mycorrhiza every 2 weeks. You're just adding to the population. Let's see. Flushing. So another part we're going to talk about, this is one of the main things, that problems I see is when people are flushing. So flushing is, the main idea behind flushing is, let's say you fed too much and it has, now you have a buildup of, a toxic buildup of food is basically what it is. and you need to get some of it out of there. Well, in media-based grows, that means you need to wash it out of the soil, and you don't. It's not like you can just, you're not going to take the plant out of the pod and then wash all the soil off. No, you just run a bunch of water through it that you don't put any food in, and by washing a bunch of water through it, it naturally pulls a bunch of the nutrients out, and you're basically, what you're doing is starting over because you've toxified your media that your plant is growing in, and you need to fix it. So that's what we're talking about if we say we need to flush a plant, or if you read somebody like, oh, I had to flush because my pH was way off, or my food, my plants are burning up, et cetera, et cetera. It's because they've given them too much food, and they need to tone it down a little bit, which does happen. I mean, it doesn't happen to all of us, but it does happen. Especially if you're a new grower, this is one of the things you can run into, especially if you're feeding all the time. It's something that happens when you don't know any better yet. As you get into this, that goes away. You don't ever really run into a situation or scenario where you ever have to flush these plants again, especially if you're on a feed water feed schedule. It's just not going to happen. Now, if you're in DWC or hydro or anything, you need water changes every week just because the water gets icky and gross. And, with mine, anytime I'm in hydro or DWC, I just change the water out once a week. It literally eliminates all these problems. Let's see. So, and then now we're going to talk about what is the pH range of the soil. So these plants, they work off of, actually here, let's put up a little graph here, right there. So as you can see in this graph, what you see is all the different nutrients and supplements that are in there. You see stuff like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, iron, sulfate. You can see all of them in a line right here. And what you also see running across the bottom is those are all the pH ranges. These plants pick up different nutrients and supplements at different pH ranges. So what they pick up nitrogen at, where they best pick nitrogen up, is different than wherever they best pick up, like iron or anything like that, or micronutrient. So they pick up things, they eat things. This is all in build up to the point. So this all has a point. So they pick up things in different ranges. The main aspect of this is you don't have to just give locked in, I always feed at 6.8. I always feed at 6.8 pH. It doesn't matter. Why I always feed at 6.8. Why is my soil not 6 pH? Because you don't get to decide. The plant is going to decide where it wants its pH range because of this graph right here. Because they eat different things at different pH ranges in the soil. See, I'm starting to tie all this back together. Well, yeah, but GT, if I'm always putting my nutrient solution or my water in at 6.8 pH, how come whenever I check it, maybe a few days later, why is it at 5.5? Why is it at 5.7? I'm always adding at 5.8. It's because the plant and the rhizosphere are working together to get the plant what it needs. The plant's like, oh yeah, if you have plenty of NPK, what I'm really looking for is magnesium and iron and sulfate. And I need to, while you're giving in all the nutrient solutions at 6.8, I really need to be down here at like 5.5 to pick up the stuff that I need. Not what you want it to need, not the pH you want it at. The plant and the rhizosphere are going to set the pH where they want it because they pick up food at different pH ranges. So if you're constantly giving it to it at 6.8 and you're like, I don't understand why my runoff, I don't know why you're really checking runoff pH anyway, unless you're having some kind of major problem, but why is my runoff pH, it's always at 5.3 or it's always at 5.5. What is going on? What's going on is the plant is telling the rhizosphere, look, we need to get stuff that is down here in the 5 to 5.5 range. We're looking for some micronutrients that we need to pick up, like iron and magnesium and boron and copper and zinc. So what we really need is for you to lower our media's pH range so we can access those micronutrients, or we can access that stuff easier. So what happens is the rhizosphere actually starts off-putting catons and ions and stuff like that that actually lower the pH of the soil. Now, this is the part where we mess up, and it actually costs us in our grows, in our yields, in our outcomes, in the quality of our flower, because we are constantly fighting this. Because what we do is we see a super low pH and we're like, oh my God, what is going on? Why is the pH so low? What is going on with this? So what people will do is they will overcompensate, and they're like, okay, no matter what I do, I can't get the pH runoff up, which I mean, honestly shouldn't even be checking it. I can't get the runoff pH up. So what do? So now they're like, I know what I need to do. I need to flush this whole system out. Or, I need to flush the soil and start over. This is the worst mistake that you could make with it, because what's happened is the plant, even though you were fighting it and giving it 6.8 or 6.5, whatever you decided you were getting, and the plant has lowered it because it wants to pick up other stuff. So to combat this, because remember, you're in charge, not this silly plant that's been doing this for millions of years. You're in charge, and it's going to be the pH that you want it to be, not what the plant is telling you. For some reason, you want to fight this. So instead, you go to the store and you get a flushing product, or you run a bunch of water through it, and now you've washed out everything. All the nutrient solution is gone. You've washed it. You've wiped out a bunch of the rhizosphere. You've eliminated all of it, and now you put it in. You run off. Oh, it's exactly where I wanted it. Yeah, the problem is now they have to rebuild their society, and now they have to try to work backwards to get it back to where they need. Because what happens is you've just now caused a nutrient deficiency. You've now actually caused, by you trying to fix the problem that didn't exist, you have now caused it, because where the plant was in the correct pH range for what it was looking for, you've now wiped it out with flushing it. And now instead of, you're like, okay, I flushed last week, the plant's going to be happy. And what happens next week? This plant starts turning yellow. You start getting brown spots all over your leaves, because now the plant, instead of being able to pick up what it needs, now it has to rebuild everything and then start again. Well, by that time, the plants don't like to wait around for the nutrients they need. So what do? The fan leaves of these plants also, besides being the main part of photosynthesis drivers of the plant, they also work as reserve fuel tanks for this plant. So if you've wiped out what they're looking for and the pH range they needed to pick it up in their soil, they only have one other place to go look, and that is their fan leaves, because they store the nutrients that they also need in their reserve fuel tanks, the fan leaves. So what we see is a cascading effect the entire plant wide, where it zips the whole plant. You walk in the next day and there's a yellow cascade across the whole plant, or there's brown speckles across all the leaves, because you've robbed them of their fuel source and their ability to pick it up. Even if you just added the nutrient that you know they need, they physically can't pick it up in the amounts they need, because they can only pick it up, remember, during certain pH ranges. Whenever they're in the soil, they eat different things at different pH ranges. That's why you can always put it in at 6.8, and for 2 weeks it's at 5.3, and then you might see you keep adding it at 6.8 or 6.5, and then a month later it's at 6. It's holding strong at 6.2, because the plant will naturally, with the help of the rhizosphere, move their pH levels up and down all by themselves without any input from you. This is one of the main reasons you don't ever need to check the pH runoff of your plant unless you're having some kind of catastrophic problem where you're trying to figure out what is going on. You can literally just leave that part alone. Do not flush your plant, because you are only going to exacerbate a problem that the plant was already going to fix by trying to fix a problem that wasn't real. And now you've caused a problem because you've caused a nutrient deficiency, because now instead of the plant concentrating on picking up nutrients or things that it needs, now it is concentrating on rebuilding the society that you destroyed whenever you flushed everything out. Now, I'm not saying that flushing doesn't have its place. If you're one of the people that like to really trend on the side of super heavy feeding and stuff like that, which I don't ever recommend for new people. If you're one of those people that like to, and you've overfed, it has its place. Those things do work, okay? But if you are more on the safer side, I can tell you right now, you're probably flushing your plant is probably one of those things you are never ever going to have to mess with. If you do want to If you do ever want to look into more about the rhizosphere or anything like that, there is so much information on this on Google, and most of it is written by very competent people. This is whenever I started getting into it, and I wanted to understand what was happening with the plant and why everything kept changing, even though I'm very big into, I like all my variables to be constant. It's one of the reasons my gardens always turn out looking amazing, is because anytime there's any kind of change, I adapt for it. And the other is I'm very good at reading the plant to see what it needs. So it was one of those things that was driving me crazy, is why can't I set this? And then as I started to do my research on it, it's one of those things where, think about it, when this plant's out in nature, there's nobody setting pH ranges for it ever, and this plant finds exactly what it needs, and then it just changes the immediate effect of the area around it so it can pick up the nutrients that it wants. I hope this cleared some stuff up. This is a slightly, usually we're not this in depth with the kind of stuff we talk about with this plant, but I thought it was important for people, because I've had a few people that they were really hurting their plants with with the flushing, and they weren't understanding why it was happening, and I just thought we would talk about it today. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your weekend. I do always like talking about this plant with you, and remember, if you want to hang out with me more, just head over to WTTGT. I'll see you guys next time. GT out.